Mr. Sharp's on? Okay. I'd like to call this Town of Cedar Lake Planning Commission work session, June 3rd, 2020, to order, 7 p.m. I need to read the paragraphs for the COVID-19. In accordance with the governor's executive order relating to COVID-19, in-person attendance of tonight's meeting will be limited. We have arranged a live stream of the meeting so those interested can view it from home. The meeting is slated to start at 7 p.m. You can view the meeting via our website at cedarlake.org/u-town-meetings/. Then click on the view broadcast under the live broadcast. You must join the meeting through the link to participate during public comment. Due to the unique nature of the meeting, the Town of Cedar Lake will accept public comment submitted electronically. If you have a question or comment about the item on the agenda, please email the question or comment to michelle.baker@cedarlakein.org. Ms. Baker will ensure that all submissions are shared with the board members and that the submissions will also be entered into the minutes of the meeting. Please keep your comments civil and constructive to the policy issues on the agenda. Okay, would everyone stand for the please? Bob, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Carnahan.
You're welcome.
Okay, roll call, please.
Heather Dessauer. Present. Chuck Becker.
Here.
John Cora.
Present.
John Foreman.
Present.
Richard Sharp.
He just called in. He had a little issue. He'll be dialing back in a second.
Okay. Jerry Wilkening.
Here.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
Dave Austin.
Present.
Tim Kubiak. Michelle Baker. And myself.
You hear Don?
You there, Don?
I'm here.
Okay,
I'm
thank you.
here. Yep.
Okay, first item, old business, Henn Commercial Subdivision. Owner Richard Henn, P.O. Box 502, Cedar Lake, Indiana, vicinity 13301 Lincoln Plaza, Cedar Lake, Indiana 46303. Petitioner's requesting preliminary plat for a one-lot subdivision. This was deferred from May and deferred from March also. And I know today we have a letter from Don regarding the matter. So would the petitioner like to come to the podium, please?
Richard Henn, 13733 Wicker, Cedar Lake. This is Robert. We've got a couple problems with the entire structure here. The alley specification. He's got a binder course and a finish course. How many inches asphalt we got now?
3.5.
3.5.
What Don's got on his review, and I understand that's the town specification for, the road, 133rd maybe, but the alley, we had discussed prior that we were hoping we could, that it's just an alley, never traveled, and we're hoping we can use that specification.
We'd like it down to 2 inches of surface, what we'd like to put on it.
Mr. President, what was the old ordinance?
Thought it was
Inch and a half?
2 and 1.5. Yeah. I think there was some discussion. Don, chime in anytime. I thought there was some discussion regarding making sure that the base was good. Isn't that correct, Tim?
Yes. I mean, our old pavement section was 1 and 2. We know that doesn't work. In comparison, the alleyway that was just improved in front of Tech Fed and will be improved in front of Summer Winds is 1.5 and 3. So the 133rd pavement section is about 12 inches. So let's not go off of that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, but there's semis that are on the Tech Federal. That's a one-way for Strax and the True Valley. This is an alley at best. So,
Well, it's an alley at best, and upon further review, we've noticed that Millennium uses that alley.
sure.
He exits to the alley. And we got $12,000 on there for this. Seems to be a little bit excessive.
Well, my thoughts were, I thought we had this discussion here. My thoughts were that that alley has been here for 50, 60 years.
70.
We know there's lots of stone on it. And I don't think it's necessary to go to our new spec for that. So it's really not a.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't even think
accessible.
with our new layout here, I don't even think we have to access the alley.
Oh, I see.
I mean, really, we're coming in, we're parking on the side, backing up and going out the way we come in. So, you know, the original spec, when the daycare was gonna go there,
Right.
that we were gonna use it for employees. I don't think anybody's gonna use it. So the issue comes down to $12,000 and,
Would you be okay with the old spec? Would you
I'd
still
be
approve?
okay with the old spec if somebody picks up the other half. You betcha. Somebody got the Millennium and the Township trustee. It affects them.
To the end of your property.
They did into our property. That seems to be logical, but I don't know if that works, but it's logical. The rest of the stuff is pretty straightforward in the
The
rubber.
rest of the stuff's pretty straightforward. I understand, I understand. Don.
You're
I got this-
referencing Don's letter.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
referencing Don's letter. You know, we got the site plan late, you know, because of all the craziness in the world the last couple months. And we were under the impression that Turinga had already turned in the final plat. That looks like there's a couple of things that still need to be addressed, so we'll get that addressed for the final meeting here in a couple weeks. And then the items that Don reviewed on this site plan, you know, that's all pretty standard stuff. The only two items we were concerned with was really the alley, because it's, you know, drastic cost to us that we're really not gonna use.
No.
We did agree to do some improvements to the alley at prior meetings when
Yeah,
we
we
had
gave-
the daycare coming.
Right. We gave away some footage there
And
too.
we even gave away, you know, donated, 10 feet up along the whole length to get it a little wider for everybody.
Did we-
So we were hoping we could get a little, you know, a little help on that alley.
Well, the alley, we could actually, we don't even need the access whatsoever. We don't need the alley access at all. I don't know. And that is a point of contention. Somebody should, I think typically on a road construction, the participating people, both sides of the road, pick up their fair share. Seems only fair, you know what I mean? The other thing is that the spec on the concrete, Don's got it at 6 inches thick. The existing concrete is 4 inches thick. So I don't know what that means. So we had,
Don, is commercial parking different? At 6 inches?
No, it's not. Commercial asphalt and concrete are still to town spec technically, the way it's written. But 8 inches is a little thick. I think right now they show, on the site plan, they submitted 7 and 4. And whereas the town spec is 8 of cement, 8 of concrete, and 6 of crushed aggregate, sorry.
7 inches of concrete. Seems to
So
be,
it would just essentially require a engineering waiver if you wanted to let them go to their pavement section.
Well,
all that's gonna be on there is cars. There's nothing else on there. Well, that seemed to be a little excessive, but you know, whatever we have to do there, that's not a problem. The alley is the big issue.
Mr. Head, I have a question for you. Would you be willing to do the entire alley if we went down to the thinner material?
Well, if we get everybody participatory, we'll
Well,
surely.
it's kind of difficult to go to people that don't know what's going on. They are, you know, the trustee, for example, it's a little bit difficult to say, hey, we have a new neighbor moving in. We're wanting to improve the alley. We're asking you to donate X dollars. Same thing for any group for that matter. From that standpoint. And I guess this whole thing started off with, of course, the daycare. And then we said, hey, wouldn't it be nice if that alley got improved? Then later, the trustee could figure out how to
Right.
pave the rest of it. So,
I guess it's only, and I'll grab everybody in a minute. I guess not knowing what the building's really gonna be
No.
is still up in the air
It's
also.
gonna be office building. I'm
It
gonna
could still
back-
potentially be a daycare though.
No daycare.
And we only entertained that thought because they approached us,
They-
because they used to lease from us up the street, you know, at the center. We wouldn't actively pursue a daycare by any means. And we, you know, obviously all learned through this process, it doesn't work well there.
I'm gonna backtrack just a little bit. If we all remember what that building looked like a year ago, do we remember?
we all know.
We bought it, we put a lot of money in it. We're getting ready to do another one. I'm not asking for any help, but I just don't want to go excessive. It just seems to be excessive to do that alley and not have be participatory. You know, and the question is, Millennium, those people over there are wonderful people, did a beautiful job. Why didn't he include the alley? He's using it. I don't even think we're going to use it.
Uh,
Are you gonna have an entrance off the alley?
We don't have to.
That was my question. Are you?
Well, if I don't have to do it, there won't.
but he,
I know,
but he,
on
but he,
purpose.
but he has a legal right to use it.
I think I really
I'm
right.
I mean-
not disputing that, but the whole issue before was he was gonna use that alley, and so we wanted it improved because he was gonna use it, the daycare was gonna
Yes.
use it.
Yeah.
Daycare is not using it.
Is the reason this all started on an alley. If he came in today with just that, forget the daycare, would he have to improve that alley?
Well, the improvement of the alley again was based on what the building was going to be used for.
That's what I just said.
So since
Well, wouldn't that be handled during occupancy or during a building permit? If we need the alley, then it could come up and then we have to do it. At this point, we don't have to do it. I mean, I don't think we do. We don't need it.
I think
All
the
right.
answer to your question, John, is no, they wouldn't.
So they will.
Well,
That's the
Okay,
answer to your question, I think.
okay,
The whole alley paving came up when it was going to be. there.
right. Okay, so therefore, if he's not gonna use it,
Well, the other thing is this additional parking we're adding here. We don't even need that. We have plenty of parking on the Broadway side of this. There's plenty of parking all over.
let
The way
me,
I understand everybody, that parking over in that park is anybody, first come, first serve.
let me catch one of the,
Go ahead.
computer. Heather, you have any thoughts on this immediately?
Not yet, no. I'm a little caught off guard, but so
Okay.
not yet.
All right, Mr. Carnahan, you have any thoughts on this?
My only concern is, Dick, you agreed to do that, and then when it changed what it was gonna be, somewhere down in the future, it could be something that you would need to use that. And if you have to do it in the future, it'll probably cost you more to do it in the future than it would cost you now because of low oil prices.
You're correct, Bob, but we don't need it now. And we were planning on doing, when we agreed to it, we were thinking 2 inches of surface asphalt, not 3.5 or whatever it is, 5.
No.
You know, you get the-
Mr. Sharp, any thoughts?
I'm with Heather, a little confusing, but if they're not going to use it, I don't know if we need to make them do it right now.
Okay. All right. Chuck, you have any thoughts on this immediately?
immediately, no.
Okay. Mr. Kubiak?
I know that there was some talk about sort of obtaining that easement to get the rest of the way through there. Valley. I don't know that ever happened as of yet. We don't have, that alley starts at the trustees building, not even, it actually doesn't even go to the end of the end property. It's to the, right behind the Millennium building. is where it stops, as far as town owned alley, so. The other thing with paving the alley at this point is, like you asked in the beginning of the meeting, the water has been located, but we do need to that alleyway to service those 3 buildings because there's some
An undesirable arrangement?
undesirable arrangements. So, there does need to be a new 2-inch water. We're actually talking with Nice now to see if we should stub a 6-inch line to put a fire hydrant out at 133rd, or what is the proper repair to do in that situation so that we do it one time and we're done. But definitely that piece of property from, at least from the Henswiener to the middle of, to the Strax thoroughfare there is going to have to be tore up to fix that, prior to any type of paving. In the works now, we're trying to figure out what's, make it do it one time and make sure that it's, so we did locate it, and that is the only area. I mean, we may be able to switch it over to, you know, where the right of way was granted, so we don't have to tear it right down the middle of the alley.
Yeah. Okay.
We are currently working.
Hey, Don, there was one other thing, I just got this, letter from you. Wasn't there a stormwater discussion about stormwater to the,
There is, one of our comments addressed that. They showed some grading in the frontage of Broadway to address that low area. I ran out there this afternoon and appears to be another low spot near the alley, which I don't think they can get to Broadway, at least by eyeballing. I didn't take a level out there and do it, but we kind of asked for some additional existing grades in that area to determine where that water is going, or if it's going to sit there. It looks like it's going to sit there. So it was something we asked about.
scanning over your report and I just didn't see it, oh, Clarify runoff captured in the alley. Okay. I know that we had some discussion about that water and was it gonna run over the sidewalk or was it gonna get into a structure and head under and into Broadway?
Yeah, that was comment number 8. They provided existing and proposed spot elevations in that kind of southwest corner near the dentist office to show that it would sheet flow across the sidewalk in the Broadway curb and gutter. It appears that's feasible. It's just I was more curious about some areas on the site plan that didn't have any grades, and when you're out there in person, it sure looked like a low spot to me.
Yeah, well, there's definitely some water sits there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to pick up all the pieces here best I can. Chuck, do you have anything you wanted to mention?
No, that I'm thinking about, if we gotta rip up the alley, would it be best if we pay half of it and then they pick up the other half?
Well, the whole, Mr. Austin, the whole alley will be owned by the town someday, correct?
Well, I hope so. So
Okay.
does Dr. McDermott. Specifically about the alley and the stormwater. 2 items that we got to talk about. We councilman here about the benefit of that, both from a utility underground perspective as well as ingress egress. So.
But we know that the water lines in the alley itself, all supersede the town being incorporated, quite honestly. You know, Mr. Mauger had all of that developed and put in when this was all still considered county, right? So we know I guess my question would be regarding the alley. We know that if you're heading out of the alley to the north, that trying to turn left is a danger situation. It would need to be a one-way going south.
And that was
Had we
discussed for
owned
the
the whole
original
alley-
proposal.
Right, and had we owned the whole.
Yes.
Question for Don, to me, would be, we would like to have it paved because it would look nice. And that whole area is starting to be quite nice, especially with the advancements you've done to your building already. B, if we were to already own the alley, and Don, if we were to pave it ourselves or hire somebody, and knowing that it was not going to be for commercial trucks or truly through traffic, if you will, how many inches of asphalt would you put on top of stone that's been there for 50 years? That's my question for Don.
I mean,
sounds adequate.
I think we talked about this at the last meeting. We take it down to stone, proof it, and proof roll it, and if it passes, then we obviously don't have to put any more aggregate down. But I mean, we know what 1 and 2 does in just residential subdivisions without heavy traffic. Granted, we have garbage trucks on stuff like that. I mean, we can weight restrict the alley as well. You can put a tonnage limit on it and put a smaller pavement section and get away with it probably.
Well, since Mr. McDermott has mentioned stormwater, is there any elevation that can be dealt with, Don, as far as stormwater in the alley? Additional?
There's one inlet in that kind of alleyway, which is up towards the entrance off 133rd, that appears to be working. And I think we actually have a grade from south to north it would be difficult to get some of those low spots on Mr. McDermott's kind of lot line back to the alley. I think we may be too high. We recommended a reverse crown be put on that so you can kind of keep the water on the road and direct it to it versus putting a crown on it and directing it, you know, east and west, where we know we have issues. So we can probably maintain the runoff in the immediate alleyway, but we would probably need some type of structure on that lot line to put it somewhere. I think it's too low.
According to Tim, we're going to be digging up that whole alley to install a new water main and possibly a fire hydrant on 133rd. So that would be the time, I would think, to regrade the alley. At that time, they're going to dig a pretty good hole, pretty good ditch all the way through there.
Yeah, with that property that you're dedicating over,
Now, that's full of utilities, just packed full. You want to be on the east side.
Is there a time frame for that, Jim? Kevin?
ASAP, I mean, we're gonna try to, we need to get it taken care of, so I know water's that there, because we just don't want, we're gonna just put a 2-inch, replace the 2-inch line, but I didn't want to do that. Moving in the right direction.
Well, obviously, our goal is to get this building done fairly quickly so we can get it leased. So we need to finish the site work pertaining to the lot, the extra parking lot, the concrete parking lot, getting the grade. The alley we could wait on. So I mean, if it's a situation where we could remove the alley from this approval somehow, so we can keep
Get it
moving
out.
forward and then do the alley maybe when they're down for the water and the drainage for the town in some fashion.
So just to reiterate, Don, the storm structures will be in the middle of the alley. But there will be no, there wouldn't be any storm structures to take care of the water along Mr. McDermott's property. Correct?
Mr. McDermott never gets any water. That's our property.
Well, I know, but if he called and asked about it, we have to address it.
I mean, part of the reason why we recommended that reverse crown is because we're obviously putting curb and gutter on here, so we can at least maintain that. If you did want to pick that up, like I said, you likely would have to put some type of storm structure on it. Mr. Henn's exactly right, though. There's a lot of utilities in that corridor. I mean, we know we have an overhead line, there's a gas line, water main somewhere. So if you wanted to extend any kind of storm into this area, say from that one structure up near 133rd, it would be snug, probably doable, but snug. We would need to know where that water main is once and for all. But you could do it at the time of the alleyway, you know, improvements if you choose.
The water problem, that low area that's there, once that parking lot is there and graded to the Broadway, that water right now, all goes to Broadway except for the puddle and the low spot. It's not like it's,
Yeah.
really, I mean, the only reason that it does not go to Broadway is because there's no area there.
Well,
Right.
and the reason I ask is because Dr. McDermott asked, and, you know, we need to get it.
There is storm going all the way along Broadway, which that water, when it rained, it's not been a underwater issue or an underwater problem. It is getting to where it needs to go, except for the way it goes, not what you need to do.
Yeah, it would be.
Okay, well,
I don't think we need any more maintenance.
I mean, ultimately, the bonus was the gravel that had been there for 50 years, and Don feels fairly certain it would be, roofs would come out just fine. I'm not particularly crazy about deviating from the spec, but if this was going to be shared somehow, is that something the council has to decide on? That's not something here.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Well, is it possible to go back to my question of removing the alley completely from this approval and we address it later after the utilities and the council has a chance to look at it?
We're going to have to do something.
Because we've got to
Well,
continue
I mean, we have 2 weeks till for them to talk about it and discuss it. If Mr. Austin thinks that can be legally done, and there's assurance for the future, and
We have no problem.
any and all the participants that are going to be involved.
Exactly.
If he thinks that can be split and sorted,
Yeah.
I'm I have to trust what he's saying.
Whoever is on Zoom might want to put their phones and or PCs on mute, please.
Mr. Roshan, could you start over?
Scoping is not yet clear. And that needs to be done so that some type of an agreement can be considered.
I think the first step would be to get total access, Tim, is that correct? All the way up to the Straka Bed Hills parking lot? We don't have that now, right? No, so you don't have an alley. The alley stops at basically our property line. Is that correct? So we need to, you need to dedicate an alley.
Question.
I think we can table the alley for this. Let them get moving on their building, get it rented. That's
Thank
a
you.
TIF district. It only benefits the town.
So we can remove the alley from this approval, this site approval.
I don't see why we can't.
So we're gonna have to ring this, go through and
Cover his.
cover Don's comments, and then we'll just have them remove the alley completely off the site plan.
Yeah, as long as you're still willing to come back around.
Exactly. If
that
this
day
comes
and
up,
time.
exactly. If it comes up and you get a fair distribution on the alley, we'll be more than happy to pay our share.
Regardless
I
of
guess,
the-
I guess,
Regardless of the
I guess we have to
cost.
figure out how that's done legally.
Yeah, I
And,
don't.
and now, and there's only 2 weeks to do it. So, I mean,
I
and-
think you got more than 2 weeks because we can do that anytime, whenever you pull the string.
yes, but if and when, if and when we approve this,
With your pocketbook.
if and when we approve this, whatever those assurances are, have to be in,
Could be
in,
contingent upon us coming to a design standard.
no, there needs to be some numbers.
Yeah.
So,
well,
so
at least
there,
the
so there's
thickness
future assurance.
Could be a year. So we at least need to agree on a thickness that we.
Well, deviating from the spec, I don't think is a good idea. If the council wants to do some kind of sharing, his piece is his piece, then whatever the sharing is what the sharing is. That's, again, that's not anything we're gonna do here. My question again is, Mr. Austin, is if we pull this out, we need something in 2 weeks of assurance that there's accountability in the future.
Pulling it out is a description of moving the one lot subdivision plan forward.
Right.
Not pulled out, it's connected, but it's not.
Okay.
So the agreement or the arrangement, whatever it turns out to be, identified in the document.
Can you put it in a minute that we'll pay our fair share? Would that, our share?
Well, I think, I mean, the fair share verbiage is fine. However, since we don't know who's paying what, when, I mean, we need to have some numbers. I mean, if
There's no
If-
scope
if
of
there-
work.
There's no scope, we don't know what we're doing.
So if we
Yeah.
don't have scope of work, we can't have numbers. So I think if we can get some kind of contingency saying that, you know, we identify it and he will be willing to participate if and when that day comes, I think that's.
wait a minute, but he does have a piece of alley that's his right now.
And he already
Correct.
donated a portion of it to us. for
Right.
Easement, so he's already been operating in faith on that.
Why?
regard.
Why don't you get an estimate on both, two separate estimates?
Well, we got an estimate here of $12,000 now for the entire alley.
What's required?
Well, that's for the entire alley.
That's the entire.
That's not for the entire, that's only for the frontage on Mr. Hen's parcel. I think if you're gonna go that route and try to dividing up, you know, the overall cost, I think you need to do the entire thing and then just come up with a number and tie it to an approval.
Well, I'm hoping you can come up with a number tied to approval.
Well, yeah, and we can do that. I can come up with a revised number for, you know, improvement of the entire alley through the township parcel as well. That's a different number. Right now, we're only focusing on the stretch, you know, which is, you know, in the frontage of their parcel. So that's a different number, and we have to come up with a, you know, a pavement section so we can set the number. And I think you need a number tied to an approval so you can legally enforce it later.
Well, that was kind of what I was getting at. I guess if these gentlemen are a partner, hypothetically, and the town ends up being the other partner, that might they may feel like that's
Yeah, you're right.
that's a good deal because they've mentioned the other Jake properties. And I just, you know,
Well, what would be
I think-
participatory in our half of what fronts our property?
And Don, maybe what you could do is get a cost in the next 2 weeks for the entire alley, make it so that it's for both the Plan A and Plan B. Plan A is 1.5 inches to 3.5, and Plan B is 1 inch and 2 inch. And then that, we can chew on those numbers and talk about it at the actual meeting.
well, but
Then we'll have.
I think,
Somebody mentioned put it in the minutes. Let everybody remember, this is a work session, so nothing is official here. Everything that needs to be official will be at our next meeting.
Correct. And so Don needs to come back to the next meeting with a Plan A and a Plan B on the cost for the entire alley, and then also a subset of what Mr. Head's property would cost at the 1.5 inch and 3.5 inch bob, as well as at the 1 inch and 2 inch.
I can do that.
Logic.
well, I don't think deviating from the spec is a good idea. I don't think, huh? There's no garbage trucks in the alley?
I've never seen it. There's nothing there. I've never seen.
I mean, there's no. I guess.
Well, it's one way. You gotta come in from the, you can't come in from.
You gotta come in from the north.
You gotta come in from the north. I don't, no.
I guess ultimately,
I've used it several different times, and I come off of 133rd and go south, and then go out through one of the other exits.
Well, you owe us money, Bob.
Okay.
so I guess jumping to Don's comments here, are we fairly certain? Are you guys fairly certain that all these things will be addressed
I think so. That
in,
sounds fair.
in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh, his items are insignificant. We can get to.
Okay, well, Heather, you have any thoughts?
No, not at this time.
Mr. Sharp?
No, not at this time.
Don, anything else?
So I guess the direction is to come up with 2 estimates for the entirety of the alley going through the township parcel for the old pavement section and the new pavement section. Is that correct?
That sounds correct. I guess the only variable would be if the proofing was not good.
I mean, in our estimate, we had what we call an undistributed quantity for an undercut. So if there is any issues, that's kind of built into it a little bit, gives us some fluff.
All right. Okay. Okay. Mr. Kapora, any thoughts right now?
I'm good right now.
Good. Chuck? Good. John's good? Okay. Mr. Kubiak? Good? Okay. All right, well, everybody's got a lot of work to do, don't they?
Yeah, we ain't got much to do. We're pretty good shape. Thank you.
Okay. All right. New business. Birchwood final plat phase 1. Hello, Jeff.
Good evening. Yeah, let's go with Old Top Homes. We will be seeking final plat approval for Birchwood Phase 1.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. Birchwood Phase 1. Phase 1 has 36 lots, 3 outlots. We received a letter today from Don. He's reviewed the final plat a couple times. We had 2 minor comments that will be no issue whatsoever to get those taken care of. One was a labeling comment. Another one was for the lift station, and I'll ask a question on that in just a minute. He's reviewed the as-builts. Those had no comments. There are a couple stormwater comments for the ponds. We are working out the letter of credit. We'll be paving Birchwood by the end of the week. So we will be seeking final plat approval.
Okay. Don, I'm flipping through your information here. There's a lot of partially addressed things. Are you fairly certain that all these partially addressed things will be taken care of in 2 weeks?
Yes, regarding the final plat, like Jeff said, there's only two minor comments remaining. The biggest one would be just how we are going to deed the lift station parcel over to the town. And then also working on a couple final as-built comments. And then the biggest thing is the letter of credit amount. We're going to be, like Jeff said, paving quite a bit in the next week. Doing some inspections to basically strip stuff out of the letter of credit. So that number is in flux, but it will be finalized by next meeting.
Okay, one more thing before I get to the commissioners. That small change, one house, one lot disappeared, another one moved over or whatever that was, that's all taken care of, Don? That's all good?
Yes, that's actually not even going to be platted until the next phase or the phase after that.
Okay.
So those lots aren't even in this one.
All right, so it's not here.
Those documents are
Yeah.
updated, have been done.
Okay.
They will need to go back in the ordinance 1318 that was recorded and be re-recorded.
Okay. Is that something Mr. Yatsko will be doing? Okay. Okay, Mr. Sharp, any thoughts?
No, if everything can be buttoned up, like Don said, then that's in 2 weeks, and that's good.
Okay, great. Mr. Carnahan?
No, just make sure that the unaddressed items that Don has on his report are completed. The first page has a lot of addressed items, but the pond is only 50%, and he said he's working on that, so sounds good to me.
Ready.
Yeah, regarding the as-built review, they actually submitted as-built for other ponds that aren't even part of this phase. So we just completed the review. So even if some of those ponds aren't up to spec yet, they're not a part of this letter of credit anyways. So we're actually ahead of the game just a little bit. So as long as the comments are addressed for items within the immediate phase that's going to final plat, we should be fine.
Okay, I like hearing we're ahead of things. That's good. Mr. Foreman, any thoughts? Mr. Becker, any thoughts? You're good? Mr. Kabora?
No.
Nothing. Mr. Kubiak?
No, I'm good. Everything is moving ahead.
Okay. Mr. Rosh, and all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed?
I think so.
Okay, all right.
So the only question.
One last question. How many lots are in that? I know this is for 36, but what is the total lots to be built in there?
For the total communities, 137.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Are you good, Bob?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Go
my
ahead,
only
Jeff.
question is the dedication of the outlot to the lift station. Sometimes we can put that comment on the plat. Oftentimes that kind of gets lost sometimes throughout the recording process. I mentioned to Don that I would rather just hold on to it with handover development, let it get recorded, and then upon acceptance of the lift station, we would deed it to the town so that there's a true chain, chain of title.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too.
Okay.
All right.
And then we'll proceed that way. We will just, upon acceptance of the lift station, we'll have a deed to the town that will deed that over.
You provide us a specimen of the deeds, we can put it in the files.
Sure.
It'll remind us internally also.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.
Okay. New business, item number 2, Pepys rezone. I believe, if I can start with Mr. Austin, the drawing is done and seems good for that roadway.
It is, I've been in communication directly with Stuart Allen at Tringa Surveying. He sent me readable plats and depictions of parcels. Town council checked off, and I'll bring to the town council, of course, for acceptance, or for signature execution, actually, the license agreement or drive access that will expand this property access.
Well, it should certainly make things better for these people. Mr. Kubiak, any thoughts? None? Okay. John, Sephora?
No.
No? Chuck?
No.
No. John Foreman, no?
No, sir.
Mr. Carnahan, any thoughts?
The only one on our paper here says this is a commission's decision and the rezone will have to go as a recommendation to the town council.
It's been saying, hang on, Bob. It's been saying rezone.
It is a reason.
Okay.
It's going from multifamily to a residential single. She already has her preliminary plat. Last month they got the preliminary plat, now they're doing the rezone and then they'll get the final plat. Once David is done with the easement and the language, goes back to be part of the plat. Proper.
I think Bob's question was, there seemed to be two different things.
It says on the bottom of Michelle's letter, petitioner is requesting a rezone from an RM to an R2.
Yes.
So that'll have to go to the town council.
Rezone does.
That's Bob's point. The rezone would have to.
The action of the commission to recommend.
You're right.
Okay.
Yes, Bob.
Yes, Bob.
Yes, sorry.
You were right. You were right 4 times, Bob. Okay. Heather, any thoughts?
My only original question was about signage, if we needed any additional signage for the drive access. I know there's already one there.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about that. Were you were committed to doing something there for signs? Drive exiting? You when the driveway's put in. Oh, okay. All right. I'm just trying to catch up here. What I'm getting at though is you're going to handle that when it's done. We'll look that over, make sure it's good. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Mr. Kapora, you good?
I'm good.
All right. Anybody have anything else? Mr. Becker, you good?
All good, Jerry.
Okay. Yes, we will move on to the next item. Beacon Point East subdivision and rezone. Commissioners requesting preliminary plat for 159 lot subdivision and rezone to PUD.
And there again, it states commission's decision where that would be going to the town council.
That's correct. Good evening.
Yep.
Jack Slager with Schilling Development representing Beacon Point. We will be requesting in 2 weeks the rezone from RM and RT to a PUD. The plan hasn't changed. We were here in February, we were here last year, and then we were here 2 weeks ago. We will be putting out the legal ads tomorrow, advertising for the meeting in 2 weeks for the public hearing. Two of the things that I wanted to discuss tonight that came up previously, one of them that everybody seemed to look for some input on was to add a little bit of variety to the plans. And we've been working with the builder for the last 2 weeks to come up with some additional architectural features. So I'm happy to report that I've got an email from Ron McFarland from McFarland Homes. They're going to add some texture material changes, shakes, board and batten, vented gable trims, second gable with a partially covered walkway toward the front door. So a number of architectural details that they're going to add to their available models. In addition to that, the current section of Beacon Point offers a choice of 8 colors, and they're going to open up their palette to all the available colors, which is actually 28. So we're going from 8 available colors to 28. Not saying that they'll use all the 28, but that'll give a lot more variety to the styles that are in there. So
Anything that color green?
maybe I don't know. There's red, there's blue, there's white.
The other thing that we had submitted to Don, and we did get a sizable review from Don yesterday, I believe, but Jack is going to work on that, and he didn't feel like there was anything that we couldn't get accomplished in the next 2 weeks. I wanted to discuss the parkland calculation and donation, and we've talked a little bit about this in the past, but the site itself has over 10 acres of open space with some berms along 141st, trying to preserve all the trees along the creek, a large pond with a fountain at the entrance. We are going to have, of the 3 acres at the entrance, what's not used by the pond, there will be an acre of flat grass area that will be open space. And what we've decided to do, and we talked about this, being that the demographic that we're hitting with this product is mostly empty nester and retiree, we wanted to get some walking trails in here. This front area that we're calling park currently has sidewalk that we'll be installing on 3 sides, the north side, the west side, and the south side. And so we wanted to connect that back so you could do a full walk around the park, or around the pond, I'm sorry. So I had talked to another developer, actually Jeff, who's done a number of walking paths in their developments, and they typically will just use stone or crushed gravel. He did say it's a maintenance nightmare, tends to wash out during storms and everything else. So we're gonna come in with 8 inches of stone and I believe 2 or 3 inches of asphalt. So it's gonna be a paved walking path on a stone base. We'll have signage up that says no vehicles and things like that. So in addition to this piece that will allow you to walk around the pond, and that will be installed with phase 1. We're also going to have a nice walking path that will kind of wind along this open space, jog through the trees in the back, and then come out at an opening that we have between 2 lots here. So those 2 sections of walking path, we had a bid from Walsh and Kelly to install of just over $50,000. It was like $54,000. And that combined with our 1 acre of flat open space grass should meet the park requirement based on the calculation that's required by the town. And there's a little bit of flexibility in the calculation because they want to know how many 2-bedroom units, how many 3-bedroom units. We went ahead and went 60% 2-bedroom units and 40% 3-bedroom units, although I think it's more like their traditional sales have been about 80% 2-bedroom units. So we got a little higher number there. So it comes out to 3.14 required for the park. We're gonna have 1 acre plus the path. Other than that, those were the 2 issues that we talked about 2 weeks ago. So whatever else you guys wanna bring up or talk about, we can.
I thought we were pretty close on the park size anyway. Weren't we done?
Their total required was around 3.1, 3.2 acres. Going through their outlots and kind of calculating usable green space, I think we came up with like 1.6. And then that would be in addition to, I think we came up with about 1,500 feet of that 8-foot wide asphalt walking path that Jack was talking about. Jack, is there any improvements to that? I'm more thinking outlot B is the biggest usable space in the front there. Are you guys just going to leave it green space, or are you going to put some benches or?
No, our intention is grass in the path. And actually, the bid that we got was just to put the path in, but even to get this piece of asphalt path in the front, we have to put a sizable culvert in there for the drainage that goes through. So I mean, I didn't include that in the calculation, but if we didn't have the path, we wouldn't need the culvert. So that's got to be there too. I don't think we're going to have benches, but I mean, if we see later that people want benches, that's something that we can easily add.
Believe it, even benches on the northern area.
Right.
As you get back around through the trees back there.
Yeah, we've actually, one of our other developments, one of the nonprofit groups came to us and said, hey, we get these recycled benches that are made and given to us. Can we put one on your path? And so might have been the JCs or something like that. So, but yeah,
that's made out of plastic bottle caps, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Kapora, any thoughts at this time? No? All right. Mr. Sharp, any thoughts?
No, not at this time, Jerry. Thank you.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes, looking over the restrictions in there, I was a little confused. Are you going to let them have dogs or cats in that area?
We will. We're keeping the same covenants that we had in Beacon Point. So obviously they're allowed to have domestic pets, but no fences and no pools, which should make Michelle happy.
No sheds.
No sheds, no fences, no pools. So they really are restricted on what they can do outside. But again, it's maintenance free. So everything is covered in the HOA, the snow plowing, the lawn mowing. And we just got those HOA documents were just completed today. So they went over to Michelle and Dave, and hopefully they can review those over the next 2 weeks, but they're pretty much identical to what we did in the last phase.
Okay.
And then I looked at water drainage on where that could go, and I didn't see anything in there that indicated that they couldn't let it go out into the road.
Not sure I follow you.
Well, Bob, there won't be any basements, so there won't be any sump pumps, but that's what you're thinking. These are all gonna be on slab.
Okay, and the it pertained to the gutters that they couldn't go into the sanitary sewers, but I didn't see if they could put an extension onto their gutter and run it out to the road, which we don't allow.
No, we wouldn't allow that either.
Yeah, we would stop that just on our typical building code, I believe.
All right.
They do offer an option for a basement, Don, and we probably see maybe 1 out of every 20 in there get a basement. But when they do, we make sure that it has access to a nearby storm sewer and that they can run the storm tap underground into a nearby storm sewer. So we're not seeing any sump pump discharge on the surface.
Yeah, we would just need to put that caveat in the plan somewhere. It's no big deal.
Jerry, I did have a question. Was the second entrance staying? I thought there was some discussion, maybe.
Well, there was
about
a,
cul-de-sac.
yeah, let me, let's get back to that real quick. Chuck, anything on in this so far? No? Okay. Heather, how if I asked, you good right now?
I'm good so far. Yes, thank you.
All right. After the last meeting, there was a whole bunch of ideas flying, well, a few ideas flying around. The second entrance, it was going to also have the sanitary sewer in it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. There was some discussion about that and the properties, the undeveloped properties that are there, and whether or not, that would really be needed. I believe it's RT that's there.
RT on the west and R2 on the east, I believe.
R2 on the east, west, okay. And I know Tim and I had talked to Mr. Hulls a little bit after the meeting about perhaps just making a big cul-de-sac to the north and kind of leaving that road alone and only using it as an easement. So I didn't know where we had gotten totally with that, if that was something that had any goods or bads to anybody.
Well, we can explore that option. We haven't yet. I know, well, and we based a lot of this off the original plans that were done 10 or 15 years ago for Union Station. And so they obviously had that parcel with the intention of having a second entrance. And I know that town's always been interested in making sure there are 2 entrances to any development. It's a 60-foot strip. We do have to run the sanitary sewer through there. This actually will not be put in until the second phase. The first phase will be mainly this front corner here, I believe 10 cottage lots and 10 duplex lots. So this would be in the second phase, and that's something that we can look at. We haven't really explored that option, but we can see if it.
I mean,
if it's feasible.
it seems to me that you probably would be losing a property or 2, but you'd be gaining, not improving the road.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just, Tim and I had talked about it a little bit, and John got involved and kind of was.
I think the fire chief needs to be involved with that because he's always said we always need to have an entrance and an exit in two different locations. And according to the map here, it shows two of them on 141st Avenue.
Yeah, that's true, Bob. However, 129th, we sat in this room for a lot of nights and a lot of hours discussing that fire access with a gate along the railroad tracks. And that ended up being got rid of, and it became a very, very large residential lot, I believe.
Correct.
And
So I just want Todd to have some input into this.
yeah, I understand. I'm not going to speak for him, but I have to think that having these split entrances and yeah, I get it, Bob. I get it. So
If
anyway,
you get a fire at the first entrance and you don't have the second, then there may be people trapped in there.
yeah, I'm thinking that nobody at the fire department would have a problem driving through the grass around the pond or anything else. But I'm being a little facetious. So
Yeah.
yes, he should be asked about it. But I think first of all, the developer needs to see if it's even if it has any, benefits to them and us, or us and not them. I don't know.
Okay.
So
I'll have that for you.
anyway, while I brought this up, anybody Zooming had any thoughts on this other than Bob?
Still good, Jerry.
Okay. Heather, good?
Not at this time, thank you.
Mr. Foreman? Nope. Mr. Becker? Nope. All right.
Is that a dedicated road?
It's not a it's not a dedicated
will be.
road. It will be.
It will
It's
be.
not a
Right now, it's
dedicated
just
road right now.
Yeah,
If
with the
it's
plat.
built as so,
Yep.
but
Yeah, it's
right
just-
now it's
Just a
not.
60-foot strip of land. I'm sure they set it up that way years back just to
Yeah.
allow the road.
I think that was purchased as part of Union Station for the exact requirement of subdivision ordinance to have two entrances.
Yep.
And I think if you stuck a cul-de-sac over by 78 and 77, those two lots, I don't know if you'd necessarily lose a lot. It may be snug, but it'd be close.
Yeah, we'll play around with it.
Yeah. The only other big ticket item on our list, and Jack Hulls and I were talking about this the other day, is if the subdivision will be required to have XL, decel, and a right turn in, similar to other subdivisions we've had in town. They have plans that are currently submitted that do not have those things in their primary entrance. So that's an item for discussion, I guess.
Yeah, and actually, Jack Hulls and I discussed that today. So yes, the plan does not show XL, decel lanes into our main entrance. DVG actually has a traffic engineer on staff, and they did an analysis of this entrance along with the recent traffic count of 141st. The traffic counts, including what will be coming out of here or going in on ultimate build out, do not warrant decel, axle lanes here. But the other thing that's interesting as you look at the numbers, because they broke it down pretty detailed, is the majority of the cars going in and out of here are going west and coming from the west, heading towards 41, coming from 41. 75% of the traffic going in and out of the subdivision will be going west. So an XL decel lane coming out of here or going into here really doesn't have a huge benefit. And obviously we are widening 141st also with curb and gutter on the north side. But I would suggest, and this really just came up today, but I would suggest we take a look at a passing blister on the south side. If we consider that the majority of the traffic is going to be coming east down 141st, turning left into the subdivision, I think it makes more sense to have a passing blister where you can go around that car that's waiting to turn in versus actually having a decel lane. But I'm open to whatever the board's decision is on that.
Jack, I'm not even sure a passing blister is necessary. I mean, traffic counts on a daily aren't that high. It's a 30-mile-an-hour road. I can't imagine somebody who's turning left is going to be sitting in there for that long.
The count is really low, so.
My only recommendation is if we go away from the XL, decel, and turn lanes, is that we either have like a widened radius through there for ingress and egress, or kind of a flared curve or something like that. So it's an easy turn in. You know, you can take it at a higher speed, but not have the XL decel. It's kind of a, you know, a compromise in a way.
Yeah, we could do that. That will give it like a 25-foot radius.
There's not gonna, Don, there's not gonna be a center turn lane on 141st either, correct?
No, no. And we don't have those even off of Parish. We have Parish, we have the right turn lane ins and the XL out. But as for comparison, the Cottage Grove entrance, which is the southern entrance off of current Beacon Point at 141st, does not have XL decel. So it's just a standard entrance with a kind of wider radius. So it would be similar to that entrance, but it would also have, it would have a median curve, so it'd be a bigger entrance. If that makes sense.
Here, I got a question for Don.
Yeah, go ahead.
Don, if there's 2 or 3 trucks, boat trailers heading east on 141st, and we have a couple people turning left into the subdivision, what happens?
Like getting their boat in the water.
They wait.
So in other words,
They wait.
well, all I'm thinking is we absolutely should plan for the future. We shouldn't be thinking just about today, both in terms of the traffic count and even that whole density over there. If for some reason some of these marinas turned into subdivisions in the future, the traffic count goes up. But more importantly, we have a railroad track back to the west, and I just feel like we should err on the side of caution and make it so that people heading east do have a way to turn, go around, whatever you want to call it. If you don't want to call it a turn lane in, then we need a bypass lane. Or,
Yeah,
you know.
passing.
But I
lanes.
think there should be something.
Okay, yeah, we can look at that.
I guess,
John, why you met?
Oh, you have
John,
about
why you
300
meant-
feet of stacking back to the railroad, so it's pretty substantial.
Quite a distance, I understand. But I just feel like we're planning for the future. We should plan now.
Yeah.
John,
Yeah.
just to let John know, over the Memorial Day weekend, the Chambers parking lot and Pinecrest parking lot had no availability for any boats, and boats were driving all around town knowing not what to do.
What are you doing outside your house, Bob?
I get word, I go to the post office, I tell you, occasionally into the grocery store.
You're right, Bob. It was busy, but I'm just thinking, you know, a passing lane going east makes a lot of sense.
I guess,
Yeah.
I guess, Don, I have to wonder, why did we have, what was the engineering requirement for the deceleration lane on 129th in that neighborhood? Is that because of the elevation, or what was the discussion? Because I don't recall.
Which one on 129th?
The Schillings development, 129th in Berdan. Oakwood, yes, Oakwood.
Oh. Yeah, I think they're going to have an XL decel. Well, I think they're going to have a right turn lane. I don't think there's a creek on the west side of their entrance, if I'm remembering this right, that doesn't really allow for a large acceleration lane.
Right, but
I would have to look back at the drawings. That's just what I remember off the top of my head.
you have, I mean, you have elevation changes there. It's the same speed limit. And, really? I mean, I'm not being a wise guy. I'm just, I mean, that road is, I mean, people taking that road to 41 all the time. There's a lot of people from the east side of the lake go around that way and head.
We got our numbers from NDOT.
Okay, right.
And also, we've been working with the state. Don's been working, and I've tried to get NERC to work where you're trying to get a stoplight put out at 129th and 41. Dave Coulson, when he was here, did an accident report, and we submitted that to the state. And so far, we haven't got any movement.
There will be a turn lane there in the next two years. That's part of NDOT's widening project. It got included in it. So just so you know that.
All right. That's when they do the third lane, the center
Yes.
lane in 2022.
Yes, they are taking that into their design. We found that out about a month ago.
All right. Very good.
Okay. Let me run through everybody. Mr. Sharp, any thoughts?
It all sounds good to me, Jerry. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Becker? Good. Heather?
I'm good for now, thank you.
Foreman's good. John Capora?
I like the passing lanes, other than that, I'm good.
All right.
All right, thank you. We'll be back here in.
Tim? Tim, any immediate thoughts?
I agree with John, I think, and Jack, I think that passing lane on that side would make the most sense. That would be where you would have
Any kind of backup.
that'd be the only place backup could possibly.
I don't think that's a bad idea, but it would certainly have to be taken into consideration, the width of some of the boats that are flying through that it would be trying to pass those people.
Right, but again, I think just to have that option, if you obviously have a big truck and a boat or whatever, and you get in that position, you got to wait. It's not
Yeah.
for a semi.
Yeah.
The only time the only time foreseeable that the decel lane, if you're following something and they turn in the subway, you hold up or hold out in front of somebody in that location.
Yeah.
Most
Just as long as we don't make it like Parrish Avenue north of 231, where you go left and right, 5 or 6 times before you get to 101st. It's insane.
Yeah, it would just be that option if somebody is, if you're stopped, you can just zip around.
Yep.
You want it to be small because you don't want people, you don't want people going 80 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's like a paved shoulder almost, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I have no immediate thoughts on this, so Mr. Austin?
Sean, I did get a pile of material at 11:09 this morning. Haven't looked at it yet.
Okay, all right. Ish?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Well, just to be clear, I guess their direction is that we'll work internally to discuss the second entrance, and then they're not required to do XL decel in a right turn lane, correct, into the main?
That's kind of way it's looking right now.
Okay.
I'd appreciate any input you can provide.
We'll be talking in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Don. Good with this, Chuck? Good? Yeah. All right, you good? Okay. Next item, Crossroads YMCA concept plan. Owner John Hayes, South Shore Country Club, South Shore Country Club. South Shore Golf Course. Yeah. Petitioner, Crossroads Young Men's Christian Association Incorporated, 100 West Burrell Drive, Crown Point, Indiana. Vicinity is 14400 Lakeshore Drive, Cedar Lake, Indiana, 46303. Petitioner is requesting a concept plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jeff Ban. I am a principal and owner of DVG Team. We are engineers and planners. I'm here tonight with a pretty good sized team that I'd like to introduce. We have our legal counsel, Jim Weezer, who just arrived this evening. I have Jay Buckmaster. Jay is the CEO of the Crossroads YMCA. Behind me is Todd Sevens. Todd Sevens is the Chief Executive Officer for the Crossroads YMCA. And I'm also joined here tonight with Jerry Steiner. Jerry is the Crossroads YMCA board member, and Les Dewis, sitting to Jim's right, is a senior project manager representing the Crossroads YMCA. And we're here tonight to talk to you about a pretty exciting project. The Crossroads YMCA is proposing an exciting and unique project. Namely, it's called the Cedar Lake YMCA Camp and Program Center. It'll be designed as a destination, outdoor, and indoor recreation center of excellence. The new Cedar Lake YMCA campus will be developed with year-round programs to round and shape children and adults to build better families and to build better and caring community. The actual site and building facilities that will be developed will work in conjunction with the YMCA program curriculum. These facilities and programs will serve the current South Lake YMCA population with day and resident camp experiences, a variety of experiential learning programs, and challenging and fun athletic and adventure recreation activities. The vision and the mission of the Cedar Lake YMCA campus is to create a place to build tomorrow's leaders where an individual can grow in confidence, character, and faith. A place where new skills are learned, lasting friendships are created, and the best of yourself is discovered. The Crossroads YMCA is proposing to develop the Cedar Lake YMCA campus on the current South Shore Country Club that contains 141 acres. The site is specifically located adjacent to Morris Street. It has property on both sides, both the north and south sides of 145th Avenue. It's adjacent to Cedar Lake with lake frontage on the northwest side of the site, and it's adjacent to the Lake County Parks Department owned property on the southwest side of the site. The southern boundary of the site is really 149th Avenue. Property is adjacent to the following 4 neighborhoods. On the north side, it's adjacent to 143rd Lane and the Surprise Park subdivision. On the east side, it's Morris Street and undeveloped property east of Morris. On the south side, as I just indicated, 149th Avenue and the Lake County Parks owned property. And on the west side, it's adjacent to the South Shore and Kieran South Shore Annex subdivision neighborhoods. This property has been in successful recreational use for many decades, serving as the South Shore Golf Course and Country Club. The site is quite large. It has approximately 3,500 feet of distance between the north property line and the south property line, about 2,600 feet in width from east to west from the lake back to Morris, about 1,300 feet in width, about the center of the property from its west property line to east property line. And it has 2,600 feet of width from on the south side from its west property line to the east property line. Access to the site is currently from Lakeshore Drive, 145th and Morris Street, and 149th Avenue. Project is intended to be developed in multiple phases. Namely, the first phase will be on the parcel north of 145th Avenue, and the trailing phases will follow on the south parcels on the south side of 145th Avenue. The property is currently zoned R1 residential. And for this project to be implemented, it will require a change of zone petition for the 141 acre parcel to permit the proposed Cedar Lake YMCA Camp and Program Center. From the preliminary dialogue that our legal counsel has with your town attorney, it was recommended, and it's our expectation that we would have to come before you and the town council for a plan unit development zoning classification. And that's what part of our discussion tonight will be, is your recommendation, and we're seeking input from you on the specific district direction from the commission. In order for the Cedar Lake YMCA campus to occur and then to be successful, we are in need of a PUD zoning district that will be very flexible in the implementation of specific buildings and site improvements that will be serving the camp and the activity programs. Historically, YMCAs with this kind of program element have experienced over time camp and activity programs that grow and change as recreation and instructional learning methods change. And as a result, the PUD zoning district needs to be flexible to adapt to those changes. We think that this project will continue to add to the quality of life that you have created here in the town of Cedar Lake, and this project will help continue growing Cedar Lake's prominent footprint in Northwest Indiana. In your packet should be a very schematic concept plan that illustrates the facility and programming concepts that are intended to occur on the Cedar Lake YMCA campus. And Jay Buckmaster and Todd Sevens are here tonight from the Crossroads YMCA to present more details about the facilities, activities, and the program curriculum and specifics of the campus itself. And Jay, I think this is probably a good point for you to come and
Before
great this place is.
before you dash off, this picture we have here.
Yes.
This is going to this first phase and second phase, and that will consume the whole property.
The whole property. That's correct.
Okay, all right. Because I was wondering how big a cabin village is in reference to.
And Jay will tell you because he spent some time as a kid and
So the waterway, these ponds will not be fed from the lake anymore? They would. Okay, so it's still going to remain.
we would remain.
They look a little bigger than what they are in current.
Well, I don't see the.
These would be still connected to the lake.
Okay.
It would be still a connection underneath 145th.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. You know, part of this opportunity came out of the South Lake Y. You know, we just celebrated 1 year, not in the fashion we would have liked, April 15th. But what we have found out in that last year is the need for accessible and affordable programs and activities for kids and families. That YMCA serves a large part of Cedar Lake and the Cedar Lake community. And so we felt like this was a great opportunity to continue to expand opportunities for kids and families, adults in that type of recreation, especially the piece of experiential. You know, there's a lot of take this test or do that test, but where people and families grow is the ability to learn, grow, and thrive in real life, real action type things as far as learning. And so that's really what this blueprint starts to bring together. And so a couple of just specifics on what you're looking at in the drawing. We intend, again, to phase it, starting out with a destination day camp. And when I say destination, I don't use that term lightly. We consider South Lake YMCA as a destination YMCA and would follow suit in the investment at Cedar Lake as well. And so the first phase is really day camp driven, but this is not just a 12-week program that we're gonna, bring kids in and then it's gonna sit dormant for the next 9 months. And so that's where the program center piece comes in. We see this as a year-round activity center. Will there be day camp and family camps in the summer? Sure, but the shoulder seasons on both sides of that will allow us to do a lot more activities and events, and I'll kind of explain what those areas are. So in phase one, we have our current clubhouse will be renovated. So the current golf clubhouse would be renovated. So we'd continue to use that for dining, as well as, transition or multi-use space for kids during camping, inclement weather, different activities inside of that. So we intend to use the bones of that current clubhouse. We'd also want to, in this first phase, is develop the waterfront. So opportunities for kids to be able to learn how to swim and be safer on water. First and foremost is drowning is the second leading cause of death in young kids. The second one would be water activities. So canoeing, kayaking, little Hobie sails, getting the kids to be able to develop confidence around water and explore new pieces. And so the waterfront development would be a big piece, whether it's, again, a pier, a walk-in beach, so again, in this, the parking lot would be turned into, that being a key focus of, having some waterfront activity, as well as a little bit up from that, you are away from the water, you'll see a multi-use pavilion. That pavilion would be an indoor, what we're planning as an indoor space. So that would host, again, inclement weather, real hot days, we'd be able to use that. So again, 25,000 square feet to be able to use that for camp, different activities. As well as be able to provide programs and activities for Cedar Lake residents. So being able to run basketball, being able to run, the different programs that we run right now, right outside their back door. So, for example, adventure and recreation are big. So ninja and these kind of adventure and climbing, types of opportunities for kids and families to be able to use. So that would have indoor basketball or volleyball or multi-use space. It would have some adventure and climbing opportunities. And then another piece would be able to do maybe retreats. So maybe it's in the shoulder seasons, it's a corporate retreat group coming in to do some team building. Maybe it is an event, a reunion, whatever might happen during those times. Again, those wouldn't happen during day camp from 6, 7 in the morning till 6 at night, but would happen afternoon and on the weekends. Another thing that you'll see in there, in just again these concept bubbles, target sports, So again, whether it would be with slingshots or, those types of things to be able to use in a protected area, some open space. The other one that's marked in there is there's a couple little villages, what's called a program village. And so an opportunity for us to multi-use those spaces, whether it's maybe a corporation comes in for a retreat and they want to do some group work in what would be considered a 2-stall garage, opportunity. But we could do woodworking in there. We could do art that a group would have in there. There could be music happening in one of those. So again, real flex that for kids of what we call voice and choice. So kids having an opportunity to explore things that they're really, wanting to explore that they might not have the opportunity to afford, this music instrument or this device or those types of things. So that's what the program villages are. There's connection trails. So again, everything connected, walkability as far as, moving about and throughout the camp as well. So you'll see that reflected in there. There's going to be some support facilities. We're currently plan on using the storage unit, the units that are currently there, as far as equipment and different things that we might have. Of course, there would be some parking in there, restrooms, and those types of things. So that is phase one. I guess I'll stop maybe if there's any questions on that side of the road.
I don't have any questions. It seems like as usable as it could possibly be. And I don't think anybody's not excited about this.
Yeah.
I do have one question.
Hang on, Bob. Hang on. I'm wondering when can we expect to see phase one on a real plan?
Yeah.
I mean, when can we expect to do that? Because the sooner that shows up here, the sooner the public sees it, and the sooner it all works for everybody.
I mean,
this is great for a concept.
So to answer that question, we take this planning part very seriously. So we had myself and 8 people search the best camps in the country back in November when this started to, we wanted to look at an option, and we took a trip down to Nashville, Tennessee, to one of the best day camp and resident camps in the country. And so we studied that group. We actually then after that brought in an architect out of out of central Michigan. They went through a 3-day charrette with us. And so we have levels of detail of that one that we're still trying to kick around based on some of the other challenges we have, which is we didn't want it to just be a 12-week day camp. We wanted to be able to, and we've seen a need now with South Lake that we need more indoor space to be able to run programs and activities for families. So these are some tweaks that we need to make to the final version before.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But we haven't just taken, just to that point, we haven't put a couple circles around and, that was our camp. We've put some time into this, but we are still moving those around, but we wanted your opinion today before we move forward.
Okay. Yep. Hang on. Bob, what were you going to say before?
It looks beautiful. And if you get a lot of people coming here, I don't see where anybody's going to park. So that'll come with a site plan, right?
Yes, it will. And that's, Bob, that is where, normally you would come in and you drop your kid off for camp. And so there wouldn't be a lot of parking. What we're trying to do is in order to keep it for a 12-month, activity center and now putting that as maybe an indoor center, it's going to require, Bob, more parking. So we sure understand that.
I think that's what maybe he's after too, is I mean, something.
All right. And one other thing on your application for a PUD, you've got last year's town council president on there is John Foreman, and now it's Randy Niemeyer.
Yeah, we had a changing of the guard, but we'll fix that, Bob.
All right.
Okay. Hang tight, Bob. Mr. Sharp, any thoughts right now?
No, my only question was like Bob's, the parking, but that was well answered, so thank you.
All right, Heather?
Well, my initial question is, what's the timeline on this? The projected timeline?
So we're hoping that, by the end of the golf season, so within the next couple of months, that, we work through this process and go through all the steps. We'd like to be able to work some of the key areas. The renovation of the clubhouse would be the first one. Any type of waterfront work that we can do. And then the multinasium, or that big kind of indoor shelter space, would be the three big ticket items that we'd like to be able to get as much as we can get done before next summer. So we do think we could have a modified group.
Yeah, I think to kind of expand on what Heather asked, I'm not speaking for her, but when would you think, if everything went perfect, when would you think phase one would be complete?
2 years.
2 years, okay.
Yeah.
All right, does
Yeah.
that answer your question, Heather?
Yeah, but I did hear you'd run a modified version starting next summer, correct?
Yes, our plan is to run a modified version next summer. We might only be able to, serve 100, 150 kids, at that time. But, the next year then, we could expand that. And it's probably good to start that way. You catch your feet a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
John Capora.
You don't, on phase one, or you don't show that pond. What happened to that pond?
It's still there, right on the road to the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on the north side of the 145th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
It might. This was a part of the charrette drawing was an actual hand drawing of it, and so they might have not made that to that
That's
level.
fine.
But we'll.
Yeah.
But it's staying.
Yes.
It's going to be enlarged.
We'd like it to be enlarged.
Don't
We'd
you
like
have
a
to go
couple of them.
through to DNR?
Yeah, those are and those might be the touches that we make on the back end. We want to get the functionality of it. For us is so important. We've got so many kids and families that need and want this type of experience. So that one might come a little bit later.
Okay.
We'd love fishing though, and those types of things.
Yeah. Mr. Foreman?
So it sounds like basically you're asking, hey, planning commission work session committee members, are you okay with us changing this from, what is it, Michelle, R1 to a PUD with details to be worked out as we move forward so that you can try to finalize the purchase maybe?
Yeah, I think we got delayed the last 3 months. We were excited about this, and then everything kind of went silent. So we have not had an opportunity to really talk to you guys about this opportunity, and what hesitations or what questions you might have as we get to this last step of getting a little deeper. Yeah.
Mr. Becker?
I'm good.
You good?
Now, one more question. Does this have to be a one-lot subdivision or two-lot subdivision? It's not a,
Divided by the street, logically.
all right, but it's not a two-lot now. Yeah, it's-
No, they're two meets and bounds parcels.
It's two meets and bounds.
Old Cedar Lake.
Okay.
Meets and bounds.
All right, again, I'm not speaking for anybody but myself, but sooner we get some things we can publicize and tell people, because this has been a topic of conversation for at least 3 months.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and not having 13 phases, only 2 is quite appealing also.
Yeah. But again,
So-
we don't take the word destination lightly. So this is a priority for us and the kids and families in this community. So.
And if anyone's been to the Crown Plaza parking lot, it's quite full. It's quite a facility.
With physical distancing and social distancing.
Are you saying it's already too small?
It's already too small.
Already too small?
Something tells me
Okay.
this will be active.
You want to say anything? Are you gonna go over the second phase? or not?
Yes, I sure can.
Well,
Just
I'm just curious.
okay.
I got more questions
Oh.
on the whole project. But
Yeah, well, just a quick summary. The second phase will then move into resident camp. So then an opportunity for kids to stay overnight. And so then you see cabin villages, and on the other side, it talks about a quote unquote mini Y I don't know. We're going to test it with the program center on, the north side, and then we'll see, how some of that evolves. So that's a little bit of, we might not have the exact square footage and the exact use
Yeah, well,
in that way because of that.
Like I said, something like this
Yep.
doesn't have that either.
Yeah.
But with that said, what are you doing about the perimeter, especially of the of the larger area, phase two? Is it going to be bermed
Bermed and
all the
fenced.
way around? Bermed and fenced. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, that's the plan.
Go ahead and keep going with phase two. Sorry.
Can I ask one quick question? I'm sorry, Jerry.
Yeah, go ahead.
How many kids would you be housing there on average?
Right now, we have the initial plan is 181.
For overnight?
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Go on with phase two.
Your cabins,
Uh-huh.
what are they gonna be like?
There'd be your traditional, at least what we've looked at to say but I do have some pictures of that we can get into detail with. They're your rustic, type of cabin. So they're double bunks.
Stick built?
Yeah, I think.
It's not gonna be a tent.
Yeah, they're stick built. Yeah.
It's not gonna be tents.
No.
All right, and where are the facilities, the bathrooms?
There's a one bathroom inside each cabin just for nighttime, and then they have shower facilities that will go inside each village.
Okay, and where are you getting your water from? The existing wells?
Well, I know that's a point of.
We've evaluated the
Yeah.
existing well, and as we go through more of the details, we'll determine whether or not that existing well has capacity to serve the whole campus, or whether the second well is
Needed.
And as far as waste disposal, wastewater, how is that gonna be handled?
There's sanitary sewer in that location, and we believe there's adequate capacity to handle what we're proposing. And again, one of the details that we'll go through with your town engineer to validate that preliminary information we've discovered.
Has anybody checked to see if we have the capacity down south?
Don, do you know anything about this? Don, do we know anything about the sanitary sewer? That's
It's more of a niche question, but I know it's downstream of their biggest lift station, which I think it's Gravity at that point, at least on the south side of South Shore Golf Course on 149th. I think it's Gravity at that point.
I believe you're right.
So I think it should be fine capacity wise.
Mr. Austin?
All those lift station number 3 it comes from lift station number 1, which is in the swamp in the South Shore subdivision. Box number 13, number 12. You got the number down too?
What about the sewer capacity at the bowl?
Well, we have capacity. Yeah, we absolutely have capacity.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna wanna know that.
You can have that report. They can call them out, they can call the old mile, get that report. You know the capacity exists. We ought to be more concerned about water.
Well, I'm concerned about both of them, especially the water.
Sewer lines are in place, our lift stations are good, everything's good at sanitary. Water, talk about.
Okay, and then the water, I know there's a couple wells. You know. Showers, 181 kids take a shower at one time. That'll never happen, you know that. Showers.
Yeah.
And potable water for cooking.
Yeah.
What happens.
So you're the existing well, the one I know of that's
Yep.
down on the far southwest end, that's still going to be evaluated?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Again, remember where we're at.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't-
Conceptual evaluation.
I know we're-
Conceptually look at these things, so we think we've got an idea how to address it. That may change as we get into the understanding of more details too.
Yes. Okay.
And the truth is, John, if money were no object and we could just do a quick layout and build, having an east side water tower tied in to multiple wells, feeding it, including the Robin's Nest, the lakeside, et cetera, that would sure help a lot of infrastructure with water down towards the south end of the.
Well, that's one of the things I'm getting at.
Yeah. I think what we have to think about is what we're seeing on the paper.
Yeah, for sure.
we know these other things are gonna be hurdles, for sure.
Infrastructure, though, has been a very major focus of the last 8 years of the council. I mean, we've been doing a lot of work downstate with different commissions for both sewer and water. So your question is spot on.
I want them to be aware of what our concerns are.
Sure.
So I want to wait till they come back with what Jerry wants on paper and not knowing what our concerns are.
Yep.
So that's the reason I'm putting up.
Yeah.
I have another question. Are you tax exempt?
Yeah, we're a 501c3 nonprofit.
We lose property tax off that property? Everything? Anything you sell there is no sales tax?
Nope.
There's a 520-foot well.
Just need a tower.
There you go.
Okay. As you were trying to do phase 2, are you pretty
Yeah,
happy with
so
that summary
again,
of
it's,
phase
it's
2?
resident camp, again, a whole level of new experiences, teen leadership programs, job prep and those types of things. So we feel like it's a nice stair step where we think that this really addresses kids that are, in that middle school through high school, that there's an opportunity for them to go that's not just brick, a brick building. And so we feel good about that.
Is that one section there say golf?
Yes.
These old eyes can't.
Yeah,
see real good.
yeah.
How big, what is that gonna be?
So we've talked about it that, we have, there's a first tee program, there's different opportunities. And so we wouldn't want to necessarily, if we've got some nice holes, can we use that for camp activities and be able to do some things? Yep.
Well, I guess in summary, I don't think anybody has any issues with what they want to have happen here.
I like it.
Mr. Kubiak?
Yeah.
Okay.
Keeping the golf course would have been great, but the fact of the matter is it's not going to be.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Hold on. And not having 300 houses there is nice.
You've been begging.
The people that are going to be coming to our community to drop off kids or being involved in these team building experiences will stop and patronize various businesses. So I think it's.
Where should we put the toll booth?
You've begged for a zip line in town for 2 years.
I think they may have something.
Good. So.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time and we're
Anybody? Yeah, Don, what do you got?
I have one thing. My only major concern would be traffic flow, both vehicular and basically pedestrian, of crossing 145th between phases 1 and phases 2. And then, just traffic impact. I know we're saying it just be drop off, but that's a lot of traffic, I guess, at certain portions of, when the Y is open.
Yeah, I had
exceed now.
Yeah, I had vaguely thought about this over the last handful of months, and the existing bridge that's there, if that bridge was redone, you could paddle canoes underneath it and out to the lake and back, and they could walk under the bridge.
Yeah, the bridge is in pretty rough shape right now. That one crossing to the between the two ponds, it's not in the best shape.
Instead of this, we just go right up, and then nobody's crossing any road. They'd be walking under it. So,
I mean, I understand that's not a consideration at this point, but just something to think about. So that's my only thought right now.
Okay. All right. Heather's good. Mr. Sharp's good. Bob's good.
No, I got a couple questions.
Okay, sorry.
With this being, it's strictly kids or children. There's no family camping.
There will be family camping. Yeah, there's a spot actually designated in about the middle of the page, north, right in there for a family camp. So yeah, we intend to do family camping. So the kids and families might pitch a tent, right, right there, learn how to camp, make s'mores, do all those types of things. And again, not have to incur the expense of just trying it, as a parent who, one day she likes dance and the next day, they like gymnastics and whatever. So there is family camping.
So
All right, and then the supervision of the children, how will that be handled with adults, I'm assuming, that will supervise these kids?
Yeah, so we follow ACA, American Camping Association guidelines, just like we do, at all our other locations. We run, in all of our 5 branches, we have about 800 kids a day, then pre-COVID, but 800 kids a day in camp. So we can, we've got a system of training and hiring for camp. It's normally around a 1 to 10 ratio. So it's not like there's 200 kids running around with a bunch of, high school kids trying to guard them, and make sure that it's very programmed, very deliberate as far as, outcome based.
All right. And so you're going to go from an R1 to a PUD. And one other thing, I had heard previously that it was 150 acres, but you said tonight 142 acres. So is it the 142?
141 at this time. That's what the survey shows.
141?
41, Bob.
All right.
Yeah, and Jeff, like the earlier concerns, the fire chief, with fire hydrants. Of course, with engineering plans, that comes.
Right.
As a part of necessity, whether it's tanks or whatever. Must have a
strategy and then create the infrastructure to support that.
Yes.
So the all these things that happen here, they happen together, separately. It's the family camping and team building and all these things could all be going on at the same time.
When it's just phase 1, it's going to be a little bit more deliberate. We do not like these things happening while kids are, on camp. And so we don't like to have a lot of cross traffic going on during these camp times.
Are these the kind of things that will be in the PUD document? The function and how it all works, and
we can detail the amount of how camp works.
I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
Here.
And we can clarify kind of time zones of when things would be offered.
It sounds to me like that phase 1 is going to help drive what they really do on phase 2. I think when he's opened up with the word flexible PUD, a lot of that is going to be driven by, 5 years ago, this warrior ninja competition didn't exist.
Yeah.
Now it's getting
crazy.
But you're also
a new fad on its way in 2 years that becomes a part of the
well,
south side.
as somebody mentioned, the training of the staff, who watches all these kids and all that kind of stuff. Those may be things that people want to know. The general public may want to know.
That's a good point.
And that probably should be on paper over here somewhere.
Jerry, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Since I'm not there and you guys might be able to portray it a little bit better, there was a projected campground that was going to go across from the chamber. You guys remember maybe a year, 2 years ago? Can someone maybe tell him about the issues with that so maybe they can talk about those? That campground got shut down.
Oh, the Natalie Samara was gonna.
You got it.
The campground.
And the concerns from the community.
The public access, the neighbors.
The rowdiness, I think.
The neighbors to the north in that cul-de-sac up there, they came in and remonstrated a little unfavorably to that. I think the whole thing kind of dissolved itself when the utility upgrades and everything were going to need to be.
Were these like campers going?
There were campers there.
Okay.
Once mobile homes. Once upon it. I mean, not mobile homes, but but it was even more recent than that. Some of those 26-foot trailers were year-round homes. So I think that's what maybe Heather's Heather's touching
They
on.
won't be drinking at a YMCA.
Well, but there's a difference
Well,
between camping and campsites, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the division is we're not running
Yeah.
campsites where people just rent them. We're programming everything that goes on there. You know, there's staff involved in this. You know, there's supervision. So we're not letting people just come in and say, hey, you can rent the camp for, you know, the half day.
Yeah. It's not a party.
No.
It's really curriculum based.
Yeah.
It's their
Yeah.
kind of a curriculum. and
Okay.
Their attitude about learning something.
So Heather, are you thinking that you're just talking about the neighbors? Are you talking about the people in the back of South Shore? Is that where you're going with this question, or?
Well, I mean, there was a lot of negative comments towards the other proposed project, and I understand this is different, but I want to make sure that they're portraying what's different about it so people understand that correctly.
Okay, all right.
Well, I think that, Jerry, it goes to your, you know, what is our curriculum? How do we supervise kids? How do we train staff? And so, you know, that's just an education piece.
And there's a lot of people that know the YMCA in and out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that
Right.
don't.
Right. Yep.
So,
Yeah, camping could have 14 different thoughts or definitions.
okay.
I think as you get further in the planning of this, it may behoove you to at least, you know, consider screening. I know it's a different use than what we're talking about up on the north side of the lake, but it may be, you know, good to be prepared for that discussion when this goes out for public, kind of public notice. So
Yeah,
you're guaranteed to have a couple residents that either live in South Shore or Surprise Park that will remonstrate against it in some respects.
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of in my mind, I'm kind of thinking berm, trees, fence. And you only know what it is because you know where it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like its own compound.
Yeah, you don't hear it. Yeah.
So it's not like it's going to be open to the public for anybody to come in and go camping.
Security, security is something that we've got to be very, you know, for our own protection and just, I mean, people being able to go in and use it as something it's not.
Same thing you're dealing with South Lake Y, Crown Point.
Yeah.
And your security systems are solid.
Yeah. I think what the other part that Heather was getting at and what Don was saying was when those public notices do go out, these are going to be the answers. These are going to be the answers we need in this room.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, good feedback. Thank you.
Now let's talk about Jack Hulse. You're his boss, right? No, I'm good.
All right. Thank you.
I'm
Thank
good.
you.
Everybody good? Yeah.
All good.
We move forward.
Okay. Okay. I guess that is the almost last thing. Yeah. Anybody else want to speak on the YMCA? Anyone? Doesn't look like it. Okay. All right. Update items. Beacon Point Unit A performance letter of credit expires. Beacon Point Unit 2 expires August 6th. Centennial Phase 8 and 9, August 8th. Summer Winds performance letter of credit expires August 15th.
Jerry, you kind of address them all in one. We've just been trying to keep track of all these kind of 3 months in advance to either extend the performance or get inspections done for maintenance. And all the developers have been notified, and we're working through them.
Okay, that's what my question was to you. One more thing for everyone. Don, you know, we were talking about Beacon East, and I asked you about stormwater, and I'm going to ask Sarah to modify the minutes. You said there was no stormwater issues there, and that's obviously correct. But for the minutes, I want the Sleepy Hollow ditch added as the detailed reference, because if there's anything that needs to be done there, it needs to be done before before Beacon East is done. So, I'll Sarah to add that to the minutes, Sleepy Hollow ditch, for the minutes. If anybody has any, thoughts or issues, speak now. So, water. Okay. Let me,
On Beacon East
okay.
or in general?
We're not talking about Beacon East. Is there any other comments?
No, I meant, yeah, yes. Okay, that's good, that's good, that's good. Well, in general,
In general.
okay, drinking water.
Drinking water. And the town council members here know this, but town is currently in a petition in Indianapolis for review of water rates. The review of the water rates is in furtherance of expanding the capital improvement plan by capital financing a portion of some development or some infrastructure, including a water tower over by Crystal Oaks and on the west side, Utopia, there's some dated and improper or needing to be updated water lines, water mains. And at the same time, we're in process of negotiating remotely, I might add, a water supply on this side. There's a lot going on with water. And I think town council members here will agree and staff will agree. The key to the development of the community for the next 20 or 30 years, whatever, is based upon getting that water supply in the right places and in the ground and used. You get one shot at it. This project, for example, goes in and we do not have water supply, or we do not have water supply and water infrastructure. We can do without the supply right now, but the infrastructure needs to be in so that when the supply catches up and we find it, catch it, capture it, and disperse it, we're ready to go and connect it. Because otherwise, we'll never get to the places that we need to get our water to.
So,
They're aware of this.
yeah, they're aware, and I'm thinking, just out loud, I'm thinking that they're fairly confident in the well or wells that are on their future property. Where does that leave us
It could
for
be-
for
it could be
negotiate?
that we now
I mean, Brenda Roberts won't
acquire-
like a water tower next to her house, but it's really close to the well.
It could be that maybe one of those wells is adequate for us to tie in. If it really is 550 feet, like John said, if the diameter is proper, it could be that maybe, with this project, there's water lines going down Fairway 2 and 3, and we have an opportunity to put some water lines along.
They'd have to be planned, but
yeah.
something would come on.
It'd be nice to maybe acquire some of those.
We have a municipal water utility. It's a statutory body. The statutory utility has authority and has jurisdiction. But it has to be included in this plan. Yes. If it isn't, forever, we're done.
If they use the existing wells on the golf course, they're just adequate, they're more than adequate, say. And they use those, do they have to put in water filtration and all that stuff?
Maybe they have to do some treating, likely. If it's,
And there would be
Because-
tanks for fire hydrants. It's big expense.
That's not my concern, how expensive the money they have to spend is not my concern. My concern is, what do they do with that water? And I'm under the impression that anytime somebody taps into a well or uses it, like they were gonna develop those 30 lots south of the golf course,
Yes.
and he wanted to put in 30 wells. And we wanted him to put in 1 or 2 wells with a treatment plant to eventually the town take over and help provide water to that end of the town.
And buy it
So
from him,
that's-
and he wouldn't
so-
do it.
So that's what I'm thinking here.
But they're coming in, this is the time, this is PUD for a reason. You get a chance to negotiate and mandate what's gonna be developed in that project. Remember, and you asked some great questions tonight about the taxes. That's their quid pro quo. For them to have a problem with us requesting consideration of development of the infrastructure. According to our standards, whatever tells us needs to go in, whatever our water department tells us has to be done, and how we connect it when we get the supply there, or using their supply in part and our connection, you'll be able to expand that water utility and water service to our ratepayers on the side.
So I know with them going tax exempt, it's taking about 50 grand off the tax rolls.
It'll be more than that.
Way more than that.
Is that?
I'm talking about what he told me he pays,
Yeah.
okay?
Right now, his use and their use are two different uses.
That's what I'm telling you the 50 grand comes from. Because that's what I was told. Okay? By the guy who writes the check. Now, with development in that area, that's really gonna jack up
Oh, yeah.
the taxes
It'll increase
there.
the AV, and
So I'm just, my curious is how does that affect the town here? You know, with losing that money.
it's very
Say,
simple.
say my 50 grand is way off, say it's 200 grand, I don't know.
It's very simple.
You
You'll
know?
still get the services, they won't be paying tax for it. But
The
fire
tax,
whistle blows, our trucks are going. If the cops need to be there, they're there. If there's a problem at the intersection, Tim Kubiak and team are out there fixing it.
and
So
And the
what is
YMCA and the YMCA
what is the plus for the town?
The destination project, the destination use, it's a large use.
So we're saying that, that as the people come in and drop their children off or whatever they're doing over there, they're gonna filter through the town and they're gonna stop and buy something that extracts or what have you, or
It's likely, John, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
But what about the wear and tear on our roads?
Yeah, John, I think we should go back to your toll booth idea because Lowerman and Morse are some of the worst roads in the town right now. And those are going to be the most well-traveled if this happens. So back to the toll booth, we should probably put one of those up.
I guess with that said, Mr. Austin, once we determine the abilities of those wells, is that the time to approach them and say, so are you going to put a water line in along Morse? Are you going to, is that, I mean, the timing is,
This
the
is
time,
Now is the time because
now's the time.
now, yeah, this whole.
Or they'll agree, or they'll agree to put it in when we give them some water. I mean, we need the water. We need that water.
We need the water for two reasons. One, because
Right.
because development's occurring in the 21st century. And number two, we've got to get out east to Lakeside.
Yeah.
We need
Well,
water.
and let's not forget, that big well that's back in the corner, I don't believe was put in by the Hayes family, was it?
Which
It was
well?
probably the big one back in the corner.
Down
Was
by
it that?
Part 3.
Wherever it's at back there, yeah. Not familiar with the golf course. That was put in, that was put in,
Whoever Cecil liked at the time,
that was,
Cecil put it in.
That might have been.
you sure Cecil put it in?
Not sure.
Okay, because there were two wells put in a long time ago. One was at the channel at North Point, and the other one was down here. And they were pumping clean water into the lake. And
1 million gallons a day.
thanks, Bob. I know my history was right. And those, so.
And what it ended up doing on the south end, it started to make their wells go dry, and they had to quit using it on the south end.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know who put it in.
Well, okay. Well, then at what point, is the council the ones who negotiate at this point? I mean,
They have the final word. The ordinance doesn't get adopted without the council, but you're in the trenches. You're right there.
well,
You send good recommendation to the council, most of the time, council does, agrees most of the time.
Jerry, the reason I brought up traffic impacts was also what are they going to do about the frontages? Heather, it's a valid point that Morse and all those roads, even though we're going to do a project on them in 2 months, there's probably some opportunity to actually improve them totally curb to curb. Because it's an incredible amount of frontage, both on Morse and on 145th. So that's another consideration that I think you should probably think of.
Yeah, well,
And then part of that equation is we do lose part of our TIF district.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was all, that road coming from the TC Top all the way to the golf course, I'm pretty sure is a TIF. So that future opportunity for capturing.
Go
revenue-
south from Texas.
No, when you go
Go
west.
north.
No, when you're at TC Top, heading west of the golf course, that whole
Oh,
area, I
okay.
think is a TIF.
Okay.
I think your TIF stops at 145th, but maybe a couple hundred feet south of it.
I think that the two gentlemen at the podium understood the grand drawing here not being particularly acceptable, and perhaps we'll bring back some detail in 2 weeks. Because they're certainly not going to come back
Not
here.
gonna be here in 2 weeks.
Oh, they won't be here. Okay, all right.
No.
They'll be here in a month, probably, more discussion, probably.
Okay.
They're trying to get the ball rolling again.
Yeah.
To buy the land.
yeah.
They don't own the land.
Well,
These families
and,
don't.
if their goal was a conceptual plan and us liking it, I think they got what they needed.
Again, my first love is golf course, right?
No, zip lines,
That's my first
zip
love.
lines, John.
Hey, John, they'll take a check from you.
I know, I could have bought it, right? I can't complain. No one can. It's just the way
I
life
could have
goes.
bought it too, but he wanted more than $50.
That's right. I mean, I think if it's not gonna be a golf course, this is pretty interesting. They're talking $25 to $30 million project. It's a lot of money.
Well, you know,
And it's gonna be professional.
it's all,
You
it's
go
all,
to that YMCA, it's as professional as it gets anywhere in the world. It's all institution type building.
No, they still have
well,
to pay sewer bill.
the other, yeah, but the other part of that is,
Sewer bill, they still have sewer bill?
Yeah, they pay utilities.
I am completely missing the benefit here. Totally. Like over my head. If anyone can give it to me, I would appreciate it.
Hey, Heather, the truth is, whoever buys it can try to do what they want with it if this board says yay or nay, right? If it's a, $25 to $30 million investment in our community, that you're right, we're not gonna get any tax revenue off of today for that. But it aids in so many more ways with I believe, the quality of life, driving past brand new buildings, infrastructure, professional lakefront organized.
What does it cost in the meantime though? If that takes 10 or 15 years, my concern is between now and then and the wear and tear.
5 to 7 is what I think.
that's exactly what we're talking about, kind of, Heather, is what they're going to do for us that they don't have to do.
Yeah, in my opinion, it needs to be big for me to understand because I just don't get it right now.
That's where the water comes in.
This is a
And streets.
puzzle.
Yeah, and streets.
There's a lot more going on in this community than the YMCA project. There's a lot more going on. We're extending the sewers on the west side. We know that the schools is gonna build now. We know that the population is gonna continue to grow here. We know that people are contacting this town about relocating here.
Well,
There's a lot of pieces. They're not real clear yet. But you feel that if you're looking at all the stuff that we're looking at internally at staff level, there's a lot going on.
And I think we want to be careful that we don't miss some of these details because these guys are in a rush. As Don said, the traffic crossing the road, the bridge is in bad shape. That a bridge and the road, I mean, everything around there is in need of some replacement.
I say,
And it
no
takes-
shortcuts around the infrastructure.
Yeah.
I mean, Cedar Lake is already a destination. That's not a secret for anyone. People already want to buy here. The subdivisions are flying off the shelves. Houses are flying off the shelves. We're already a destination. So I guess my point is we don't need them, they need us. So however we can push that and make sure that we're actually benefiting, I would feel most comfortable with.
You're spot on, Heather.
Well, I guess,
Exactly right.
I guess we'd almost need a list of the concerns from infrastructure / engineering standpoints. You know, yeah, well, no, that's true, but they're not showing us a bridge. They're not, huh?
This is so early. This seems like.
Well,
they
you brought it up,
To
so.
know that the
No,
town,
I agree, but tonight, they said, they told you the same thing, nearly verbatim what they told you 4 months ago.
Yeah. They wanted to come before the plan commission to see if, quite honestly, I think we were going to be in favor of them moving forward the PUD, so they should know if they're gonna buy the property or not. That's how.
Yeah, they haven't purchased it yet, have they?
They do not own it.
No.
They're supposed to close on it in July, I think.
Right, but
Sign
if
the
they would've
papers.
came up here tonight and everybody would've said nay, 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 that deal falls through. Heather's right, we don't own the keys of.
I'm not totally sold on the project. I like it.
We
I
don't
think
even
it's a
know what it is.
good idea, good deal, but I'm not totally sold on it. And it's like Heather's saying, you know, we have to get something for it. And I don't mean that as like hold them hostage or something, but they want, we're gonna lose tax dollars, we're gonna lose this, we're gonna have some inconveniences and that until it's up and running over the next 2 years.
Here's a project I am working on right now with another community that has a nonprofit, a big, it's a nursing home, frankly, facility who wants to expand. Now, that facility's been there for decades, and they beat the crap out of our fire department, out of the police, out of public works and services. The town's getting killed on that stuff. But with this expansion that they're proposing, which will double the size of the place, we're negotiating payment in lieu of taxes. We're negotiating as part of their agreement or their approval that they pay us some. Now, that's a negotiable amount, and it's in early stages. But that idea is not going to get let go.
Well, and you said,
So these are mechanisms that ought to be part of the dialogue and the negotiation. I don't know if that'll apply here, but being creative about what Heather has suggested is a need to know and a need to have a basis makes sense.
but if John's correct about when you say closing was, you're gonna close when?
It's supposed to be in July if they could.
That none of this will be even close to in play by then.
Well, let me back up a minute. July is the next date. Then they can do an extension, and there's dollars associated with each extension that they have to give to the golf course.
Right. What I'm getting at though is this negotiating roads, water, bridge, in curb, whatever, all that stuff. All that stuff could also break the deal.
Sure, but
Oh, yeah.
So you're talking about closing in July.
Yeah, we don't
There's
know.
a whole lot of,
Until they get approvals here, I don't think they're buying anything.
okay, all right.
Jerry,
Okay.
it's all contingent on us.
you can't go shoulda, woulda, coulda, or if this, if that happens, that happens. You gotta plan on this deal going through, because that's what everybody is planning on. So now you have to look at it as to how do we benefit, we being the town, benefit from this transaction? I think one of the things that we need to look at is if they're putting that in there, they're gonna have all these people down there, 180 kids, plus or minus, plus adults and stuff. I think we need to talk to them about putting the firehouse down on that end of the
Well, John, I probably don't know that. I don't know this for certainty, but I would hope there be some contingency in their purchase, meaning they're actually going to get the PUD approved. Otherwise, this whole thing, it just can't take place with the zoning that's on there now. There's no way the uses wouldn't allow it. So,
right.
there has to be some contingency in the purchase that they get through this process in order for them to move forward. There just has to be. And through that process, that's where all these negotiations will take place.
So Don, Tim, I'm assuming that there's a dollar amount to redo Morse from Tasty Top to the end of the golf course. I mean, you know what that
Well,
costs?
we're getting ready to redo it, part 145th and Morse in a month or two as part of community crossing. So it's not, curb widening, that whole thing. It's just a pavement rehab. So,
But I mean, ultimately, all these things need to be given a number.
yes, they will.
So
when the time comes, when we kind of get into that.
All these negotiations would need a number. They need
Again, we have to know viability of their pumps, if they require treatment. I mean, there's a lot of kind of engineering that needs to proceed before we get in the nitty gritty of where these discussions go. I mean, right now it's a concept level plan. I think it's good to have these discussions right now, but in order for them to move forward, they're going to need more answers on their side and probably our side as well.
Well, I guess ultimately this board probably needs just a wish list from those of you who are in the thick of it all the time. Huh?
Infrastructure, water is huge for this project.
Yeah.
You gotta have fire hydrants, you gotta have safety, you have to have portable water, or potable water. Storm drain.
Provide us with some type of plan, then we.
Yeah, right, it's,
We got a place to.
they were here with a bar
Okay.
napkin sketch to say, are you guys thinking maybe this might be something or not? If it's a not, they're walking the other way. And I believe while more houses would add some additional assessed value, the schools take 50% of the assessed value. I just personally think that property, if they were R1 houses and estate homes, yeah, great. But if some developer's gonna come in here like Lennar and develop those two parcels, I think
It would
that's
look
worse.
it would look like this.
I think that's worse than this. So I'm thinking of the best of.
The lesser of two evils.
Yeah. I mean, it would be a first-class institution, school-like building.
What's a
Go to the Cromwell White, it's amazing. It's absolutely 100% incredible. And this would be as professional as they get.
the other thing is ultimately, they build a nice building. But maybe
And we gotta
some
think
of
about
these things we want a little more country aesthetics.
They're also they're gonna care about the quality of that water.
Yeah,
And we've
well,
got some
they
other
have.
things happening around the lake that could inevitably allow us to leverage ourselves quite nicely if we do work on
So-
our deals.
So do these guys know anything about, we know DVG knows there's a water problem. Is there,
That's why Jack left. He already knew this.
no, I don't mean that. I'm just saying is anybody, have they offered anything? Anybody talked? I mean, has there been any discussions at all?
You know what? We all know.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm
I didn't
just,
even know the number of kids or anything.
huh?
That was the first time I heard about how many kids and,
Yeah.
it seems like a big facility, so.
Yeah.
Think about what you want. I think the two important things are the water and the streets.
Yeah.
I like Jerry's idea with the bridge. Good idea. Big one, cars going to-
Cars go over the top, and they can paddle from the lake back in the channel, do their thing, and they're done.
Well, there's a dam
There's a lot of.
between the lake and that first pond.
Not much of one.
There's a dam between.
Just working from home still.
A dam.
Huh?
A dam. You mean under the road where you drive over?
When you come into the golf course.
On the road?
Yeah, where that road coming in, which is no longer a road.
Yeah.
But right at the east side of that road is a dam.
I like Jay.
Oh, I'll have to look. I never noticed it.
I know. It used to have a gate on it so that they could raise and lower those ponds in the lake. But when they dredged those ponds
Yeah.
a few years back, they took that gate out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So,
So that.
all right, well,
So that's a real problem.
anyway, if everybody's good, it's time to go. Don, thank you. Heather, Mr. Sharp, Mr. Carnahan,
Thanks.
Fun.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jerry.
have a good
Good
night.
night.
Heather, you
Good
got
night.
the water?
Take care.
What was that?
You have your boat in the water, Heather?
Nope, still waiting on Pinecrest.
Think it's not knowing.
I know.
Can't hear you.
You want these back? I really don't need.
Wait, Jerry.
Okay, Sarah, have a good night. See you, everybody.
All right. Hey, Tim, have you checked out the swale